stage for our first main stage panel. My name is Megan Palmer, and I am so excited to be here. iGEM is my very favorite time of the year. It's my favorite event. I always say I come to iGEM for the tingles, to be inspired. Now, I have been involved with iGEM for a very long time now, basically since the beginning. Because iGEM started when I started grad school at MIT. And over the years, I have done pretty much everything I can to stay involved. I was one of iGEM's photographers, taking those early iGEM from above photos. I helped to direct the Human Practices program for a decade. I served on the safety committee. My team at Stanford actually studied iGEM as a model for global innovation ecosystems and how we can promote them in more places across the world. So generally, I am just a iGEM super fan. And then this year, I had the great honor to be invited to join the iGEM board. And so for all of you, the lesson is that if you love iGEM, there are so many more opportunities to help grow this community, to share what we all have done together, and to help it resonate and do many more things in the world. I am very excited today as well to introduce another iGEM superfan, another member of the board, and one of iGEM's co-founders, a professor at Stanford, and a very, very dear friend to me, Drew Endy. Drew is going to share with us his thoughts on shaping synthetic biology's global futures. Please welcome Drew to the stage.
Give it up to Dr. Megan Palmer. Megan, thank you so much for being an incredible leader and role model for iGEM and the iGEM community. I've got just one job to do here today, is to set up our discussion about not just what's brought us to here this year, but what might be ahead of us for each of you and all of us together as a community in the world advancing synthetic biology for the common good. And so if I could get my slides really quick, I just want to share some things. Some of this is going to be very personal because I want to invite you to experience what we're doing together in your own way, in ways that manifest and are real for you and what might be ahead of you. This word synthesis, it's such an interesting word. When we put this word in front of biology, we get synthetic biology, but I don't think we fully understand or even are very close to understanding all of what this might mean. So you take this word and you go back in time and you understand where does the word come from and pick your favorite language. For me, what I love is this idea of synthesis is just about putting things together. Composition, almost like music or dance or a book you might write. But of course, we put this word in front of biology. So here's a suspension bridge that's composed with biology from the roots of a rubber tree. Here is the watercolor from David Goodsell of E. coli, molecules being composed to create a living, reproducing machine. This is where the awesome, unique physical powers of biology manifest. And so when we talk about synthetic biology, we're talking about getting systematically better at composing or putting together living systems at these scales. And then the question that shows up is, to what end? To what future? When I teach at Stanford, one of the exercises we do with our undergraduates is we ask them what it's going to be like when they're as old as I am. We call this activity 50 in the 50s. How many people here just make as much noise as possible if you're under 100 years old? Tom? All right. Now, if you're under 30 years old, let's hear it. 20, 15, 13. All right. except for you, everybody else in this room will be at least 50 years old at some point in the 2050s, as old as I am today. And so I want to invite you to think about that. What do you want to be true in the 2050s? Because for you and all of us, it's not too late to change that vector if you really care about it. Let me share some personal things to give you a sense of how some things change over the decades and other things don't. Right, so you can see this photo from 20 years ago at MIT when Tom Knight and Randy Redberg and Pam Silvern and others, we worked with our students then to try and figure out what it would mean to advance synthetic biology in this systematic way that flows into the iGEM community. Just 3 years later, I was traveling in China in behalf of iGEM with a colleague from Caltech, that's me in the white shirt, and the colleague Christina standing next to me, and we were in Tianjin. And we had 5 universities talking about synthetic biology. I still have my slides from this talk. I looked at all the slides, all the things we were talking about. Most of the ideas in those slides have not yet been made real. It's mostly still ideas at the core of this. That same trip, we were able to go to Beijing and had a lovely time at the Summer Palace. I just found this photo on the plane ride coming back. I haven't seen this photo in over a decade. And iGEM took Christina and me all over the world over the decades. This is us in London some years later with Professor Dick Kitney from Imperial and the London-based iGEM teams. And this is just a few years ago, Christina and I moved to California from MIT, and these are what we call our uncontrolled experiments. One is named Sam, and the other is named Max. And so when I think about the year 2050, and I think about your thoughts about the year 2050, of course I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about what I've seen that's changed and not changed over the last 20 years. How are we going to get what we wish for? The way I think about it from a nerd perspective is I think about 3 dimensions: joules, bits, and atoms. Energy, information, and stuff. That's what we need from a nerd perspective, from a physics perspective, to operate ourselves and our civilization. And if we did it right, we'd have a flourishing humanity on this planet that would get along with everything else, and it'd be just great. So how do we solve these 3 dimensions of joules, bits, and atoms? And of course, biology operates, as we all know, at this intersection of energy, right? Photosynthesis, information, the genome, and stuff, the material. Even though we're familiar with what we're doing in iGEM and we're familiar with synthetic biologies that exist today, I still don't think we're thinking about it the right way. I think we're making qualitative misalignment or just not dreaming big enough. I think we're looking at the future and we need to leapfrog into a very different future than we're familiar with. One of the ways I think about it is I think about these leaves. Can anybody tell me what factory, in what continent, in what country the leaves come from on the trees? Do they come from Detroit? Do they come from Rotterdam? Do they come from, Jurong Island in Singapore? No. The leaves on trees come from the trees. The energy arrives where the trees are going to be. The molecules arrive where the trees are going to be. The biology grows where the biology is going to be. It's nature's ultimate distributed manufacturing platform. It's decentralized. It's deglobalized. Well, that's very interesting. This is perhaps a superpower of biology. All atoms are local. We could grow things locally. We know that everybody has biology where everybody needs biology. This is a 2013 iGEM project from the Betancourt team in Paris, helping with nutrition and food upgrades in India. So what might be the biotic future, and what might be the role of the biotic future in contributing to the year 2050, and what would we do about it? I don't know that I have this right, but I'll share with you our best thinking, and then it'll be up to us to really figure it out and make it real. So I'm going to call this in 6 dimensions. The first thing is, instead of designing a computer in one location and having it built somewhere else and having it be shipped back, why don't we just design the biology anywhere and then grow the biology anywhere we need it? Design the DNA anywhere, in the biotic future, we're going to design the DNA anywhere, we're going to grow the biology anywhere. In the biotic future, anything we can encode in DNA, we can grow it. There's going to be biotechnologies that are not locked away in vats. It's going to be on us and in us and all around us. In the biotic future, how many postdocs, how many experiments were done building this building? I hope the answer is 0, because that would mean the building would likely fall down on us, right? That's because structural engineering is no longer only a research discipline. It's called design, build, work. It's not design, build, test, learn, design, build, test. No, it's called design, build, work, right? So in the biotic future, bioengineering workflows will just work. Of course, we'll use computers to help us get better. And biotech's going to be really cool. You see the hints of this in iGEM, but imagine the entirety of our culture thinks biotechnology is cool. Now, this is very abstract, and maybe you don't believe me, so let me just give you the postcards I see that help me believe this to be real and much more powerful than we might understand. I'll skip the first one. Let's talk about anything we can learn to encode in DNA we can grow. And this is a hat tip to Tom Knight. First time I heard this idea was from Tom over 20 years ago. Gosh, we have such a problem sourcing computers today because making computers is really hard. What if making computers was like growing zucchini or some other vegetable that was really easy to grow? What if you could use biology to make hardware and we'd use that as our manufacturing process for really otherwise difficult things to, well, here's a plan for doing that. We just have to go do it. For the first time in 2024, I bought 2 GMO plants and I'm growing them in my house. These are petunias that have been engineered to emit light. And that little photograph on the top right is taken from my bedroom while I'm in bed, and that's a nightlight. They're bioluminescent plants. In the biotic future, biotechnology is going to be all around us, just going to be normal. This is a synthetic egg. This is a simple cell-like system that's built from scratch with purified molecules, and we're just now learning what DNA to add to it to get it to grow and divide, and we haven't figured that out yet. But as soon as we get to that, we might have an operating system for programming life at the cellular scale. And if we can get that to happen, then we have actually made biology easy to engineer, and we have routinized bioengineering workflows. What if in 10 years, iGEM's like that? Your research projects at the cellular scale work because we can actually do the engineering. Looks like we could pull that off if we go do it. Here are the Nobel Prizes for this year on the left, using AI to model proteins. But then on the right, if you train large language models on these objects, you can emit new objects, right? Computational boost for making new biology. And here's a friend and colleague, Ahmed Best. He's visiting Stanford, and we're looking at bioluminescent tobacco and petunias. Ahmed is an actor. Maybe you saw him in Mandalorian because he's a master Jedi saving Baby Yoda from Order 66, right? When Ahmed thinks about synthetic biology, he thinks literally about musical synthesis and composition. He thinks it's cool, right? So when I think about the biotic future, design the DNA anywhere, grow the biology everywhere, routinization of workflows, biology is a general purpose technology, and so on, right? Like that's what we could make real. If we pull that off, it's not that we just magically wait for the 2050s to show up. You need to be thinking about what needs to be true by 2040. You need to be thinking about what needs to be true by 2030. And since it's just a few months from 2025, we got to get going. Like, you don't want to be coming back to iGEM in 10 years like it's like now. Like, it has to be way better. If we pulled it off, the physics of flourishing are pretty good. You could equip 10 billion humans to have good lives for themselves without trashing the place, without driving things to extinction. And if we really got together, we'd get this done in time for the next generation to enjoy it. That's what I'm thinking. iGEM is about competition. And so let me close with a reflection on competition and how important it is for us in our community. When you look at the roots of this word, again, go back in your own language and find meaning for yourself. But what I find is, it's like, well, we're competing to win. It's a rivalry. But another part of competition is about bringing out our best in each other. If I'm a competitor, I want to be motivated to do my absolute best. And if we're thinking about the world we want to make and actually pulling this off, we're going to have to be our absolute best, not just individually, but all together. And that brings me to one last thing. You see it as iGEM introduces itself to you if you haven't seen iGEM before. It's the fact that we're a community not only based on an emerging biotechnology frontier and competition, but also a community that's grounded in love. The fact that we care for each other as we're competing, and the fact that we have empathy for others, right, as we're getting to the future we're hoping to make real. So that's my entree to open up the conversation. I'd like to invite Megan and colleagues back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Drew. That was very inspiring. And now I would like to invite two more very inspiring leaders at iGEM and also dear friends of mine. iGEM's new president and CEO, Nemanja, and iGEM's vice president, Dorothy. Please welcome them on stage. Wow, what a start to the day. Drew, you shared with us a little bit about what brought you to iGEM, your path, personal, and some of the dreams that you've had along the way. Dorothy and Nemanja, I would really love to hear a little bit more about your journeys through iGEM that have brought you to be leaders now in this community. What I've loved about it is they're very inspiring, but also quite interconnected. Maybe Dorothy, you can start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, before coming to the concept of iGEM, I have been supporting scientists in other fields like molecular biology and also genomics. And when I was working for BGI, a really big biotech company in China, they have a tradition to support high school iGEM teams in Shenzhen. They also kind of like supported the first iGEM team from China. So naturally, I had to study everything about iGEM. And the more you learn about it, the more you got addicted to it.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. And especially, there's a topic that got my heart, human practices. That was why I joined Megan's committee the next year in 2018. And then I became an ambassador in 2019 when I worked together with Nemanja, being the iGEM ambassador and going to different events in our region. So I believe, I hope, that most of iGEMers from China, you know me. If not by my English name, you might find me in your WeChat groups with the name Langua or Gua 老师. And during the pandemic, it was also, again, Nemanja, who, through his connection, actually randomly invited me to join the staff team and never stopped. So a lot of things happened and a lot of new things created. I guess being iGEMers means like we are all addicted to, living in a chaotic situation full of challenges, changes, but also always being excited to solve them.
That's wonderful. I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of chaotic situations at iGEM. It's always very calm, very calm. Nemanja, you've already mentioned that you were a big supporter, or Dorothy mentioned a big supporter and helped to bring her further into the competition. And I know this has gone back and forth over the years as well. Can you share a little bit more about your journey?
Yes, so my journey, I think, really started similar to a lot of people probably in the audience as well. I was a student and I got introduced to iGEM, but I think even further back, I had always, as growing up, I wanted to really kind of do a bunch of different things. I liked biology, I liked architecture, I liked art, I liked design. And I studied biology, my background is in biology. And then one day iGEM came around, and there was this completely holistic experience in which you could do everything. So suddenly kind of everything just made sense. And that's where I really found myself loving the iGEM spirit. Since then, we were ambassadors in 2019. We had a pandemic. I had met Randy at some point, and he kind of dragged me around and said, "You make the virtual jamborees happen." So we worked on the virtual jamborees. Since then, we've really focused a lot on our transition to organizing the jamboree here in Paris, and have expanded the team here. And that is kind of my main journey. So.
Yeah, that sounds sort of familiar. I think most of iGEM is folks saying, well, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just make it happen? And what's been inspiring to me over the years is just seeing always the same folks to come, they bring new energy, and then they bring new people along. So today's session and Drew's remarks were really thinking about what might happen over these longer timescales that sometimes it's hard to think about. Drew, you mentioned 2050, 50 in your 50s. I sometimes find it difficult to think about these types of 50-year horizons, 30-year horizons. So why don't we go at about 10 years? 10 years, right? So this is the 21st Jamboree. That is wild. When I started at MIT, I couldn't have imagined it. But maybe we could begin to think about what is iGEM 2033? I would love to hear from all of you. What is it? Not just what it looks like, but what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be here? Or are we even here? What is iGEM doing? How is it part of this larger community? Maybe, Nemanja, can you start?
So I would say what I imagine will be very true, and what's already true is that this spirit, the energy that's currently in this room, would be there even if this space was completely empty. Just the people that are coming in, all of the teams and so on, and that energy will stay and it will just expand and become bigger. I can imagine we would need to get all the floors of this building, all the rest of the pavilions as well, in order to host everyone. But more importantly, I think the Jamboree has to become really a gathering place for all of synthetic biology, where we would have teams, but we would also have other groups joining us here. We would have side events that are organized by other groups. We would have organizations working with us as well. So really gathering the governments, gathering industry, startups, and making this be an even bigger World Expo.
Yeah.
Of SynBio.
Well, what I'm hearing is that clearly this is just sort of one layer of an image, and we've got to build the whole cell. I mean, we have sort of half a nucleus here, right? Maybe we need to bring in some more architects and engineers that can help us to build some elements. I think, Drew, you had some ideas on what that could look like.
Well, there needs to be a nuclear pore complex.
Oh.
Right, sort of like if you were going in a car wash, there'd be a bunch of foam noodles or something. And then there needs to be some active transporters on the outside, like bringing the sugars in and out when you come through the arch. There's tiny little upgrades.
Okay. Yeah. I can see. So, okay, it's exciting. It's bigger. There's more community members that are coming here. Dorothy, can you build on this a little bit? What do you see? What does it feel like?
Yes, I mean, like in 10 years, a lot of change could have happened, right? A lot of new things mentioned by Nemanja, but I'm also thinking there is something that may stay the same, which means, I guess, people here, iGEMs here, maybe you're still there in 10 years. You heard from our host, right? If there are 13s, 15s, like a lot of Jamboree. Megan, you been Jamboree how many times?
Every time?
Yeah. And we have a saying, I mean, everybody knows that. Once an iGEMer, always iGEMer. So Jamboree will become an annual reunion for our iGEMers, of course, and also a gathering place, like Manya said, for all the people working in the field of synthetic biology. And another thing that won't change is iGEM exists to support and ensure there's a future about synthetic biology. And it's not only by us, it's by all the iGEMers working in the field to ensure that future. And within 10 years, the future will be bigger. There will be another visioner, maybe like Drew, talking about what we see synthetic biology in another 15 years, right? But the wish of iGEM always being the supporter for all iGEMers will stay the same.
One of the things that is just really, I said I come for the tingles, is really inspiring in this community is that it is made by everyone.
Yes.
It is made by everyone. And seeing here this sort of improbable community, how many of you, this is your first iGEM? Right? Okay, give me a little yell. Woo! Right? Like, if this had been the starting point for me when I was at MIT, right, and it was just a few of us, and I thought it was the most amazing, improbable thing ever, and this is your starting point, imagine how much bigger it can be. You talk about all the floors in this building. Maybe we have a bunch of buildings. maybe they're all over the world. Maybe the point isn't at the building, but it touches every single community. We have 65 countries that I think have been involved. That's not all of them. What are we doing? We clearly have so many more people who can be involved. So I want to dig into this a little bit. Dorothy, you mentioned that iGEM is always changing, right? It's dynamic, it's changing, and that is its beauty, right? There's elements of it that look the same, but that evolution and the engineering that goes into this. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about what are some of the elements that you see happen as it's come into being. It's not just a competition, right? It is a new educational model. It is a policy test bed, right? It is a observatory, and more than anything, it's a place to see the future. So tell me a little bit more about those partnerships that you imagined, the types of activities and community. I'm going to invite you to start, Dorothy.
Thanks, Megan. I mean, yes, indeed. When iGEM started, it was just a competition, because by then, I guess the biggest wish is we need more people to learn about this subject, making progress in the development of the technology and join the field. And that's the first step. And actually making changes to the world, this is not enough. That's why iGEM started to build more programs in recent years, including innovation. Because once you want something to happen in the real world, you need to provide a product. You need to provide a solution that actually people can benefit from it. People can actually use it. So like iGEM Startup Program is actually making this goal happen. And you can see them in our sub-village. I would say this is just a start. We already have iGEM start coming back, like Ginkgo, like Asimov, become the leading player in the field. And within 10 years, 50 years, there should be 10 times, 100 more startups making symbol products all over the world. And I guess on the other hand, there are other parts. Maybe you just mentioned iGEM as a test bed for policies. Indeed. Human practice and safety started with iGEM in 2008. Back to then, I guess very, very few people are talking about responsible innovation. What kind of risks should we take into consideration, or can we actually estimate the risk or have the full plan to control it at the beginning of a project? So that's why these topics exist in iGEM and help people to explore a new way to work with the emerging technology. And nowadays, we are very happy, because we worked with so many experts in the field, including policymakers. iGEMers are received a very comprehensive guidelines with the wisdom drawn from those experts coming from different world. And they are also the best practitioners. So I would see if policymakers, if anyone working in the policy field, if you want to learn about some perspectives on certain issue about development of sustainability, come to iGEM, come to iGEMers. They will provide the best and also most exciting insights, and maybe fresh to you as well. And because iGEM has a one-year cycle of policy implementation, we always act as the clinical trial for new policy to be implemented in the real world.
I love that. I love that. Sort of the clinical trials to try to get things off the ground and a policy idea. You mentioned that you would see all of these other startups potentially, 10 times the amount of startups. For those of you who are iGEM team members and you're thinking about 10 years from now, who imagines themselves as part of a startup? Oh, a few of you. Who imagines they're leading a nonprofit organization? Oh, I saw a few over there. Who's on this stage? Who imagines themselves being a leader at iGEM? Watch out, I'll make you come onto the stage right now. You're going to be here? I look forward to welcoming you to the iGEM stage very soon. Who of you thinks you're going to be working in the government? Within a few of you here. I look forward to whatever new agency that you're leading in your government. Who else is working for one of these multinational organizations across many governments? Oh, man, you're going to be on the stage and leading a multinational organization. See, iGEMers can do anything. So, one of the things I've been really excited about in terms of the capacities here has been some of your thinking about these villages, right? The villages as an ecosystem for the things that can grow. Maybe you can share a little bit about that dream, what it looks like today, and how you see it growing over time.
So just to introduce kind of a bit of context, a few years ago we used to call villages tracks. They existed as sort of the competing tracks of where teams get awards and so on. We would like to expand on that concept. We would like to build on just like the vision that Drew said, design, build, work. And we imagine that happening through community, through innovation, through collaboration with other people. The villages are based on the most pressing global challenges, but they're really hubs where teams can collaborate, where other groups can also collaborate with teams, where we can bring more companies, startups, organizations working on these topics as well, and drive the progress. What is really important that then, and what we maybe lack of right now, is the ability to track the progress and then continue where we left off the previous year. For many of you, and I really need, we need your help here. What happens after the Jamboree? Your project is done, what's next? How do you stay involved? How does your project continue? Is there a way that someone else can continue your project as well? So this year, we are really happy to announce that we are going to be recruiting what we call village mayors. So mayors will be the champions of that village, the champions of the topic, and they will be recruiting more people to work on sort of the annual programming around the village, hosting events, hosting various sessions, and then gathering the partnerships and the people who need to be involved in each of these villages. At the end, what is the outcome of the village? We would like to obviously have the expo showcase that we have here at the Jamboree, but as that is happening, we would also like to sort of have a group collaboration activity where we track everything that's happened in this current year, and then we record that progress and keep for next year as a kind of a progress map towards the future.
Wow, that is such a cool idea. For those of you especially who said you were going to be going into government, what I've heard is that you really want to start at sort of a local level. So who's going to be running for the mayor of their village? I don't know. I need some mayoral candidates out there. Civic responsibilities, very exciting. I'm looking at you in the audience right there. I see you smiling. I know you're going to be the mayor of what village? What's the best village? You're not allowed to say that.
All of them are great.
Yeah, all of them are great.
No, but really, I would say don't be shy. We need your help because this is not going to happen otherwise.
Yeah.
No one else will do it. We have to do it. iGEMers have to do it. So.
Yeah. So let's actually pull on that. That's a really important lesson. No one else will do it, and we got to do it together. And you got to build on each other's work. Maybe Drew, share a little bit about that. You've seen the power of this giving and sharing over time. What has iGEM taught you, and what does that look like as it grows in the future about giving and sharing, and no one else will do it?
We're here for many different reasons. To learn, to cooperate, to compete. One thing that's extraordinary about iGEM is it's a place, it's a platform, it's a community where people can come together and work. It's not just working on the policy, but policy can find a home here. It's not just working on education, but education and learning finds a home here. It's not just working on the frontiers of science and technology, but it's all of this. And frankly, I know of no other venue on our planet where that can happen. It's iGEM. And what's so exciting to me, Dorothy and Nemanja, about what you're both articulating and leading iGEM into is this vision you have that iGEM will grow not only as an educational and learning platform and a platform for enabling people to create and do, but also a scaled platform for these many other dimensions that need to coalesce and weave together to become this biotic future. And so, Megan, back to you. When I reflect on what I've seen happen within iGEM, it's the fact that the team that's led iGEM, Randy bringing iGEM forward into the world on this much broader stage, we have something incredibly precious and unique, and it would be a mistake for us to think of it, in my view, as, well, I come to the Jamboree and then I leave. No, right? Like, you come to the Jamboree and you're punching a ticket into a future of possibility, and iGEM offers the platform for making those possibilities real. And that brings me to the second thing I want to share. Don't wait. Like, if I could go back in time and think about all my experiences, as much as I've been blessed to learn with others and to do a few things, I probably have another list of things that's 100 times larger that I wish I had done. It's not like emotional regret. It's like, oh, there's just more to do. And many times when I didn't do things, it was like, oh, I'll just wait. Maybe somebody else will do it. Somebody else should do it, right? And it's like, oh, that was a bummer. And so the other thing I would offer as we're thinking about the future of iGEM and we're thinking about how we all engage and work together after this Jamboree, when it's the next week and the next month, and it's like, what are we doing in January 25? What are you doing in February of 25? What are you doing in March of 25? What are you doing in terms of all the wishes you have about paying it forward to the next Jamboree? And we talk about 2030, but it's like 2025, 2026, 2027. Don't wait. Don't wait for somebody to say, oh, that's okay. Like, no, just like prototype it and share it and pay it forward. So, those are the two things I'd offer. This is such an extraordinary community and platform and such an extraordinary vision you're bringing out for all of us to think about and talk about, and grateful for your leadership. And please, let's not wait, right? There's no time to dally on this stuff, right? Now is I'll say one last thing. You go back in 2002, 2004, and these ideas like, yeah, they sound cool, they're fun, they're important, they're new, and that was enough to get us going. But we have some very material and serious topics and opportunities in front of all of us. And if we're talking about things like flourishing and biodiversity loss and safety and security and the biotic future, and we're talking about it like we're talking about it today and it's suddenly the year 2032, that'll be too late. But because it's actually 2024, it's not too late. Now is the time for working together without hesitation, please.
Yeah. So in that spirit, we also have an invitation for many of you, especially those of you who have been around for a while, but in the spirit of not waiting, to any of you. We're thinking about opportunities to help share this very special experience of iGEM with many more people and invite others to give their ideas, to give their opportunities to grow and expand. One idea for this is to have an iGEM council. You might think about it as like a Jedi council of many of the folks who might not even know about iGEM but should. If you have some ideas for what this would look like, I would like you to invite you to share them with me and with the team here. You can email me at megan@igem.org. It's very easy to remember. Or we'll have a design session on Friday from 9 to 10 in the nucleus. But come share your ideas on who else might help to grow what is already a very special, unique, and very powerful place to make wonderful things happen in the world. So just to end, some of you are brand new here. Some of you are addicts and super fans like us that have been around for a really long time. And so I would love our panelists here to share what's one piece of advice for somebody who's brand new to the Jamboree. What should they do the next couple days? And then what's one piece of advice for somebody who's been around for a while?
So I would say really use this opportunity that you're here, try to meet as many people as possible, try to participate in all these activities. And we talk about iGEM as a roller coaster experience. So the Jamboree will end in 4 days. So after that, don't go off the roller coaster. Just stay on. Keep going. And really, one of the main messages I would just bring to everyone is that dream big. You have to go and do it then. You're going to fail probably in some ways. And that's what iGEM teaches you along the way, that failures are fine. You're going to learn from them and you're going to do after that. Because really, we have to do it. You have to do it.
You have to do it, and failures aren't just fine. Sometimes it's fun. Dorothy.
So I mean, like, I know how stressful it is to prepare for your judging session and then live stage talk and your team booth, but that's only the components in your competition, and you are kind of more familiar with that. My suggestion will be to try as many new things as possible, because the purpose of Jamboree is to bring everything in the field to present to our iGEMers. There are things that you may have not heard about, or you may have not participated. For example, the big simulation, and don't be shy to ask questions to anyone, including our exhibitors. They are here showcasing their latest products because they believe iGEMers should be the first group of people because they are cool. They need to try it, and if you learn about that, and don't be shy to go in, join those serious discussions, because your opinions, your insights with your experience working in the projects are super valuable. And also don't be shy, as Nemanja said, to meet with new people. This is just a start, but this is a unique gathering. And I hope you also find it's kind of a changing point in your life or career.
Well, and I would also like to add that there's a lot of people here, and a lot of them are just like you. You come from different places in the world. You've lived through a similar experience, and you are alike. You've shared that experience. And we say that iGEM is, we talk about iGEM, but iGEM is really also local. It's what you do as an iGEM team locally at your university, at your area, and so on. So that's the beauty and the love of iGEM, really.
That's the love.
If you're just here for the first time, I'd like you to send an email to your future self. Write yourself an email to the future. It doesn't have to be 2050, but I like 2050, but it could be 5 months from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now. Send yourself an email to your future self. And in that email, describe what you want to be true, what your dreams are. You've already heard about connecting up with people here, totally. And so if you want to double down on that, share that email to your future self with somebody who's here, another first-time iGEMer, who you'd never interact with, no way, no how, because they're so improbably distant from where you're coming from. Like, hunt down that person, metaphorically, and exchange those emails to your future selves, and see what you can learn from each other as you put in writing what you wish to be true about your future. Sounds a little bit like, no, just do it. Like, do yourself a solid, write an email to your future self. For everybody else, right, what are you going to do? Like, pick one thing, wherever you're from, whatever you can do, whatever gift you can bring to the world and this community, and sign up and do it. Like, get it done in the next 6 months to help iGEM, to help your local community partner better with biology to advance the biotic future we wish for. Don't wait for it to happen from somebody else. Do everybody a solid by making that community contribution.
Thank you all for this wonderful conversation. I think you've heard so many great lessons and stories, and so I'll just leave you with a lot of the things I heard today. Don't wait, find friends, dream big, dream impossibly big things, and know that others will be here to support you, to challenge you, to really inspire us all to do more together. Thank you so much. Have a great next few days. It's my favorite event. I hope it becomes your favorite event too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.